ಏನೋಡ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ಫಾಸ್ಟ್ ಆಳ್ತಾರೋ ಅಥವಾ ಕಾಫಿ ಟೈಮಿಗೆ teachers. Okay, I will start. Still about 10 more about to join. I don't know. Maybe after lunch it is very difficult to sit even at home also. You feel of napping and sleepy. And that way it is a different topic you feel. Okay, fine. Yeah, I was telling you, what is this climate? Climate is nothing but the aggregated pattern of weather, right? And always we will say whether the weather is hot or cold. You can easily express how you feel immediately, whether it is cloudy or clear. You look at outside and say, oh, it's cloudy, or oh, it is clear. That means anything that is immediately happening right now, right through your window, what is happening? You call it as weather, isn't it? What is happening right now in a short span of time? In a short span of time, whatever that you feel or experiencing, you call it as weather. So you would look at outside, you will say whether it is hot or cold when you experience, or look at there and say cloudy or clear, humid or dry. Right? Is it drizzling or is there any downpour? Something like that. 1 minute. Right. This one you feel. Snowfall, snowpack, snow melt. Whether there is any tornado or typhoon or a cyclone or something else like that you may feel. So in other words, whether all these changes that you are immediately noticing is nothing but the weather, isn't it? The aggregation of all these things put together in a particular period of time, over a large area, you call it as climate. Simple. What is climate and what is weather? What is the difference between these two? So weather is what exactly you are experiencing right now immediately. It is long, it is a very short term. Whereas climate is long term. Climate is seasonal, isn't it? You will say winter season, rainy season, summer season, spring season, something like that you will speak. But day to day, morning till evening, right? Morning, oh, what was the condition? Whether it is cloudy or clear. Say afternoon, what was the condition? So just in a short span of time, what you can experience immediately right through the window, you call it as weather. The aggregation of all these weather pattern, right? As an average, you take it and refer it to as climate. So climate change, climate is changing means it is having an altered patterns of the weather, and if you pull in all the altered pattern of the weather, you call it as climate. So thus, climate is the aggregated pattern of the weather, meaning averages, extremes, timings, spatial distribution of hot and cold, cloudy and clear, humid and dry, drizzles and downpours, snowfall, snowpack, snow melt, tornadoes. So all these put together. So whatever that has been altered, you call it as what? The climate. So ultimately, climate change means the altered pattern of all these conditions in a given area, in a larger area, over a period of time, you call it as climate. So global average temperature is just one measure of the state of global climate as expressed in this pattern. So global warming, so Earth surface temperature is increasing, is one such condition, is one such pattern that you are experiencing in the climate, isn't it? So whether it is too hot, isn't it? So that altered pattern of the weather with an increased temperature, you are saying it as global warming. But look at its subsequent impacts once global warming temperature change, global warming takes place. Small temperature changes, small temperature change may also bring about a big change in the pattern of the weather, isn't it? See, that is why you will say, oh, whether it is cloudy. When it is cloudy, what would be the temperature? When it is having a clear sky, what would be the temperature? Isn't it? So it brings about a small change even in temperature also can bring about a large change even in the weather patterns or climate patterns. What is climate change? So climate change is a change in the usual weather found in a place. That is what I explained. And it occurs when there is long-term weather pattern is altered. Climate change occurs when long-term weather pattern is altered. Right. What is weather? I just told you. It is short term. It takes place in a limited area. It can change rapidly. Now you are seeing right through your window. If it is hot, suddenly it may change. It is difficult to predict how this weather is changing in our area, in our neighboring environment. It's very difficult to predict. So that is what I mean to say. Weather is what's happening outside your window right now. That is what you call it as weather. While climate is the average of many years of weather observation. Whether this type of humidity, this type of temperature, today you see something, tomorrow what is the temperature, day after tomorrow what is the temperature. So in 1 month, what is the average of the temperature? In 3 months, what is the average of the temperature? Likewise, you pull in the long-term information of the weather data and pull in it over a larger area. That is why you call it as climate is the average of many years of weather observation. So, and once it is there as an average, it is going to be there as a climate. See, rainy season, what is the climate? Well, spring season, right? Summer season, likewise. So, climate is long term in a larger area, wider area. Seasonal changes, seasonal changes. It is measured over long spans of time, measured over long spans of time. What was the climate that was there, right, for the last 10 years, for the past 20 years, for the past 50 years? Right. What was the climatic condition that is prevailing in a geographical area? That is what we call it as the climate. Now, climate is affected by many factors, both living and non-living factors. So, climate may be affected by the living as well as non-living factors. See, if you want to decide about the simple reason, simplest example I will give you. If you say an evergreen forest, what do you understand by the term evergreen forest? That means in that area, there will be always foliage, greenery, and the rainfall will be there. Moderate to heavy rainfall will be there. This much you can say very superficial in an evergreen forest. If I say it is an evergreen forest, and you always expect greenery, you always expect what? The vegetation. Now, that is going to be decided by whom? The living factors. Living factors. What are these living factors? Living entities, that is plants. So, what do these living plants will decide about the weather condition or the climate condition there? Right? How much of water is being transpired? How much of photosynthesis taking place? How much of decomposition of the leaf litter and other things are taking place in that area? So, all these processes, how much of fruits have been fallen, how much of assimilation, that is, the plants have taken the nutrients from the soil and could able to develop it to still grow and develop, right? Young to adult, adult to mature, mature to old, right? Likewise. So that means climate is always determined by the weather, that is both living factors as well as non-living factors. What is the geographical area of the say geographical area of a particular forest? Whether this forest is located in at what latitude, altitude, all these things. As you go higher and higher elevation, so what is the vegetation? What is the forest type? So, based on the topographical features, you know that various types of vegetation can also be seen, isn't it? Evergreen, semi-evergreen, dry deciduous, moist deciduous forest, shola forest, scrub forest. See, if I say scrub forest, wherever the temperature is high, wherever the soil condition is what? Not having that much of nutrients, as you start traveling towards most of the areas towards Bellary, Raichur, drier tracts, etc. We experience. So vegetation keep on varying. It is influenced by both living factors as well as non-living factors. See, if you look at, for example, the evaporation, water humidity, and or any such type of things. How it takes place in a Thar desert, how much is there, in an Agumbe forest area, how much is there in Mysore area, how much is there in Gulbarga area. Likewise, the entire climate condition is going to be determined by both living and non-living, abiotic and biotic factors. They will be having a cumulative effect. So likewise, when climate change takes place, and why this climate change is taking place, it is because of global warming, ozone depletion, acid rain, deforestation. So mainly because of these things, global warming, change in temperature, depletion of the ozone layer, acid rain, deforestation, isn't it? You keep on cutting the trees in your place. Let there not be a single tree or vegetation. And you experience what would be the temperature or climatic conditions over, say, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Likewise, we experience. Likewise, you have lot of vegetation, greenery in your area over a period of time. So then also you will experience and say, isn't it? So what would be the condition? So likewise, the global warming, ozone depletion, acid rain, deforestation, all such activities, right, are mainly responsible for resulting in a climate change. What is the difference between global warming and climate change? An increase in the average surface temperature as well as in the lower strata of the atmosphere, I say, is referred to as global warming. And when such global warming takes place, and if it is going to prevail in an area, do you think that the climate also would remain the same? Definitely it will not remain the same. Why it will not remain the same? Because when temperature increases due to various factors, the rainfall or precipitation also varies. The rainfall or the precipitation also varies. So this cumulative of both variation in temperature as well as the rainfall, you call it as climate change. So that is the difference between global warming and climate change. So global warming refers to the increase of the Earth's average surface temperature. And why it increases? Because of building up of the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Because of the building up of gases in the atmosphere, we can see a change in the temperature of the Earth. That is what you call it as the global warming. On the other hand, climate change in a broad term, it refers to the change in the climate both because of the temperature as well as because of rainfall. Because of a change in temperature and as well as the average rainfall also is changed, it results in climate change. See, how do you determine that this is an evergreen forest, this is a deciduous forest? So, looking at the temperature, isn't it? And rainfall. In an evergreen forest, you will see there is a mean annual rainfall is always very high, isn't it? Mean annual rainfall will be about 250 centimeters. Whereas in a dry deciduous or a moist deciduous forest, a mean annual rainfall will be around 180 to 200 centimeters. So, likewise, if the temperature and the amount of rainfall is going to be determining or is going to be affected in an area, it results in climate change. So that means global warming is mainly confined with the increase in average surface of the temperature. And in addition to that, if you see the change in the average precipitation or rainfall, it is referred to as climate change. You may ask me, why? What is the proof that global warming is taking place? At many places, many evidences, many what we can say outputs have been there, but only a little here and there, a few examples I would like to cite you from all possible fields. See, this is a file photo of Kilimanjaro. It is a place in Tanzania. Kilimanjaro is a place. This is a file photo taken in 1970. See, look at this mountainous region having the cover, ice cover, isn't it? Now the same thing over a period of time, in a span of 30 years, when the temperature is increased, the same region, I will show you in the next photo. Look at this. What happened to the ice region? What happens to the ice caps? So they have all been melted. They have all been melted. So once again, look at the same region, Kilimanjaro, in 1970, over a period of 30 years. See, look at how much of change you can record it. So likewise, with respect to many things, with respect to the food productivity, with respect to the breeding behavior of the plants or animals, or even egg laying periodicity. So many such evidences with plants, animals, microbes, so mountains, hills, rivers, everything has been recorded to say, well, without any doubt that global warming and climate change is taking place. Now, why we should be concerned about global warming and climate change? Why we should always think of checking this global warming and climate change? What is the impact of this global warming and climate change? What will happen? So, we know that whenever the global warming takes place, simplest reason, simple thing I tell you. When temperature is increasing, when temperature is increased, I showed you in earlier photo that the ice is going to melt. You have got a refrigerator, assume you are going to keep the ice in a refrigerator, ice pack. Suppose you remove that ice cream from the refrigerator and keep it outside, what will happen? It will melt. Why in a refrigerator it will not melt? Because the temperature is low. So if the temperature is increased, what happens? The ice is going to melt. Where this melted water will go? Look at in your refrigerator at home. If the power goes off, if the electricity goes off, what happens? So from the refrigerator, over a period of time, you will see the leakage of water. When the ice melts, the water starts drooping down through your what? The shutters of the refrigerator. Similarly, globally, when there is an increase in the temperature, what happens? The ice is going to melt. When the ice is going to be melted, right? Himalayan glaciers, polar ice caps, all these things, when it is going to be melted, where do the water will go? It will go and join the sea. Remember, the melted ice in most of these regions will go and join the sea. When the water is going to join the sea level is going to rise. The sea level is going to rise. And it has been scientifically projected, that by 2030, we are now in 2021, by 2030, 20 centimeter of sea level rise is going to take place by 2030. And by 2100, 50 centimeter of sea level rise is going to take place. So in another, say, 9 years, right, assuming that if at all all of us are living, we are going to experience, we are going to see this change. So the sea level rise, already it is rising. Over the last 100 years, so they have recorded about 10 to 25 centimeter of sea level rise has taken place. And it is continuing to take place. So if it continue to take place by 2030, and if 20 centimeter of sea level rise takes place, most of the coastal areas and cities, land masses of these get submerged. Submergence of the land masses of the coastal areas takes place. And by 2100, if 50 centimeter of sea level rise takes place, most of the islands, including Maldives, right, even Sri Lanka, most of them may get submerged in water. And it is not a joke like that, one should not feel. It is a happening, that is happening. Because once the sea level rise takes place, what would be its impact? It is too much, right? So global warming has resulted already an increase in temperature. an air temperature, right, may be increasing in the lower atmosphere. Increase in the temperature of the land surface has taken place. Increasing of the temperature over the oceanic surface is taking place. Look at, I have listed all these things are taken place. And when there is increase in temperature and increase in sea level, there is also, you can see, decreasing glacier cover, decreasing sea ice cover. So snow is melting and all of them are joining the sea level, sea water and sea level rises. By 2030 to 50, I will tell you, most of the coastal cities like South Canara, North Canara, or Kolkata, or somewhere like this, Bombay, at many places, you are going to see the submergence of the land. And by 2100, if you do not check this global warming and climate change, even most of the land masses of this earth itself is going to submerge. That is probably when the entire earth surface gets submerged in water, we may call it as a doomsday, isn't it? But man, through his knowledge, through his scientific investigations, and through his activities, so he could pull in and he is experiencing and he has recorded all these things to say what would be the trend. The 30-year trends have already shown that what is happening and what will happen if global warming continue to take place. See, the polar bears, right? They may feel their habitat is the ice cover. They find it difficult to live. They may not find a place. When they do not find a place to live in, like in the snow cover, they may die, right? So likewise, their habitat is going to be decreased. And if you continue to increase the sea level, and if the land masses will submerge, and if the polar bears are finding a small place, and if they want to hunt for fish, they may find a fish like this. So because it is this fish which is responsible for increasing the global warming and affecting the climate change. Now, global impacts. So it has been very well recorded that largest glacier on Mount Kenya has lost its 92% of its mass. And sea level have risen already by more than 10 to 25 centimeter. And the thickness of the sea ice in the Arctic region has been decreased by 40%. This through various scientific work, right? And the team of researchers, scientists, they are all working round the clock and they could record this information. So a day may come, if you want to see the Maldives, see, you have to go. Because when sea level rises, the land mass will submerge. So that is, and sometimes when I say it like this, people will say, this is not going to happen, nothing is going to be resulted. Today, if at all you have observed, recorded an anomalous, what we can say, an anomaly in the precipitation or rainfall, sea level rise in Kerala, Coorg, you have experienced it last year and before last year itself. So many such things are taken place. Many changes will take place when sea level rise take place. Even in USA also they have recorded. See, if 2 feet of an increase of sea level rise takes place, it will lose about 10,000 square miles of the land surface. And it is going to inundate the Miami if the water level is going to rise by 3 feet. And by 2050 to 100, half of the world's population lives in the coastal areas. They all get submerged. That is how the coastal people will become more vulnerable for flooding. That's why I used to tell very lightly to my friends who are made houses in the South Canara, in the coastal areas. I used to say, hardly you are going to have your houses for another 30 or 40 years. Better you sell that house and take somewhere in the interior of Karnataka, like that. I used to tell them. Do you know why? Because if the sea level rise all of a sudden, if it rises, that is what even the glaciers melt. Recently, we have all seen how that flooding has taken place in the Uttarakhand area, isn't it? Likewise, within no minute, within a fraction of seconds, you can see the flooding of the area. So these are all the climate changes, basically because of the change in the weather pattern and increase in temperature. Even it is not only these physical changes or the geographical changes we are going to notice, even it is having an impact on the breeding behavior of animals. Say, for example, one such research investigation made by a scientist, a common moor bird has advanced its breeding period by 24 days per decade over the past 50 years. Every individual is having a particular period of what we can say to conceive, produce the young ones and all these things, the gestation period and all these things like that. If it is going to be advanced, it is as good as like if a normal baby has to be born among human beings, 9 months have to be completed. If it is going to be advanced by 6 months, 7 months, how the baby will be developed, how it is going to have the matured parts, you just imagine. So likewise, if the advancement of the breeding behavior is there, so it is going to affect. Even among plants also. So if the temperature is increased, what happens is some plants will flower very early and set in fruits. And even in Mysore, we have seen at some places, some trees will start producing the fruits in the month of September, October. September, October, I have recorded, I have noticed the mango tree, which normally flowers in February and later on fruits in the month of what? April, May onwards. So we are seeing, so such type of anomaly or anomalous behavior or impact on the even plants. Botanically, sometimes there are plants which may mature early, which may mature late, the male plants and female plants. If male plants mature very early, during which female plants is not ready to receive the pollen grains, how it can affect pollination, fertilization, produce fruits and seeds. So likewise, such impact will be there. Even polar bear, when the entire glacier ice caps melt, they may feel difficulty, right, for living also, because that temperature, an optimal temperature is required for every living entity to live in an ambience that is required for it. Now, climate change impact even is recorded in India. For example, look at, I am giving you a list. Drought, severe drought has been recorded in Rajasthan over a period of time. And Little Run of Kutch, it is a biosphere reserve area in Gujarat. Little Run of Kutch is there. Sea level rise has been recorded. And when sea level rises, what happens? It enters into the land mass of the people who are dwelling, say, urban area. For example, in Bombay or Mumbai, what had happened when sea level rise has taken place? The water has entered into the land mass, and there is the intrusion of the salt water into the fresh water, and this salt water has percolated down even to the ground level, and the soil water becomes what? Saltish. People cannot be able to use that water for drinking or domestic purpose. When salt water intrusion takes place into your freshwater body, you cannot able to use that type of water for any purpose. Likewise, there are scientists who have worked out about the productivity of a forest with respect to fruits, seeds, etc. in Kerala, and they could see that it has been decreased. And in Tamil Nadu, scientists have worked on the availability of the population of this coral and its occurrence. It has been bleached. So likewise, in northwestern India, they have seen the rice yield has been reduced. For 1 acre, if you are producing, say, 20 kgs of rice, it has been decreased by, say, 12 kgs. That means all these are impact because of a change in temperature. If you want to really say whether the increase in temperature is going to affect this formation of fruits, seeds, or even storage of these fruits and seeds, take a potato, instead of keeping it in cold condition, you keep it in warm conditions. So within 2-3 days, in summer, what happens? It shrinks, right? It shrinks very rapidly, sprouting here and there through its buds. You can see the juvenile shoots being coming out. But the same thing, tubers, in the winter season, it does not shrink to a greater extent, isn't it? That is why such type of tubers are being made, are stored in cold storage, So likewise, that means temperature. I will give you another example. You take a glass of milk, Add 1 spoon of curds to it to convert this glass of milk into curds. Keep it in winter season. So next day, is it possible to convert it into, is it going to convert it into curds? It takes very, very long time. It takes very, very long time because temperature is decreased. Look at the same glass of milk with the same spoon of curds. You keep it in summer. Morning, if you put it, by afternoon it will be ready. Night it will become very much sour in taste, isn't it? So look at the temperature. So that means an altered temperature will bring about an altered activity of the microorganisms like lactobacilli bacteria or yeast to bring about fermentation of or conversion of the milk into curds. See, temperature variation, how it is going to affect. Why it is going to be rapid in summer? Because the lactobacilli bacteria and the yeast cells multiply rapidly, increase in their population in the milk and convert this milk into curds. While in winter season, their multiplication, their increase in population will be reduced. So that is what is the example I am trying to tell you and tell you that how temperature is going to affect whether an activity or a breeding behavior or multiplication. So you just imagine if such temperature changes takes place, right, in our vicinity, in our area, even Ganga is under threat. So I will show you a file photo here. Look at this file photo showing. So in 1780, up to this much area, the glaciers was there, Gangotri glaciers, right? So over a period of time, by 1935, this is a file photo. It is not to the scale. It is not to the scale I am showing you here. Look at here. This much of glaciers have been melted over a period of time. Now it is 2020, 21. I mean, somewhere up to this year, the glaciers have been melted. By 2030, if it melts, Uttarakhand, right, you may have to see most of the areas have to be eliminated because all these melted water will go ultimately, right, taking away the land masses, submerging everything. And when such temperature is there, it also affects the food quality. That's what I gave you the example of food. You take an apple and keep it in the warmer condition as well as in the cold condition in winter season and summer season. If you keep it in summer season, within 1 or 2 days, it gets spoiled. Similarly, even if you keep an orange in the warm temperature, what happens? The entire pulp of the fruit becomes rotten like, very soft coarse, isn't it? It becomes very soft coarse. And so in summer, in an increased temperature, but in a cold condition, in a cold temperature, it will be there for a longer period of time. That means even the shelf life period, what we call it for the storage of the crops, fruits, etc., it may increase or decrease based on the temperature. So that is how the temperature is going to affect even, and the climate change affect our food substances and the safety of the food also, even the safety of the food also, right? You keep anything outside during extreme temperature and the same thing during cold temperature. So our lady teacher friends are quite familiar about this. If there is duff of, right, the rice to prepare dosa or idli, when it is going to be left out, where they will keep? They won't keep outside. If they keep outside, what will happen? You know it. So it will, there will be sea level rise like, isn't it? The duff level will be rising. So that is why they keep it in cold conditions in a refrigerator, not to waste it. So that is what is going to happen. So food quality is going to be changing. And not only that, even the altered temperature sometimes may show beneficial effect also. Sometimes it may show harmful effect also. For example, so wherever the risk is there, that means there is heavy rainfall is going to decrease. Assume that there is, if there is heavy rainfall earlier and if it is going to disk, then it is a beneficial, right? If heavy rainfall is there, then normally you do not see too much of temperature and other things, and the chances of these disease causing microorganisms also will be less if there were to be sufficiently a decreased rainfall. But on the other hand, an increased temperature may increase such disease-causing microorganisms like the cholera or tuberculosis with an increase in temperature. So such disease-causing organisms may be on the rise. So that may also, but probably I might have told in the previous lecture about the tuberculosis, how a warmer condition of the air in indoor environment can result in the increased incidence of the tuberculosis, and while a decreased temperature in any area may also decrease the multiplicity or increase in the population of these disease causing pathogens. Now, for example, if there is what we can say the global warming and climate change, even types of waterborne diseases like diarrhea, typhoid fever, malaria, amoebiasis, and even vectors may also increase. Mosquitoes, for example, isn't it? Hatching up, laying of the eggs, hatching of the young ones, everything will be on the rise. So vector-borne infections may also be there like this: dengue fever, chikungunya, yellow fever. You know it. These things normally going to occur with the onset of summer. We say that means an increasing temperature. If the temperature instead of we are experiencing in summer season, if at all we experience in the month of August, September, October, you just imagine. If at all such changes takes place, this type of increased vectors also will be there. The incidence of disease will be also on the rise. So that is going to be diseased. So Lyme is caused by a bacteria. This is just another example. So whether it is through vectors or through microorganisms or disease causing bacteria, we can see various kinds of diseases will occur among the human beings, and there will be also an elevated risk of herpes virus, for example. In Kannada, we call it as sarpasuttu. This sarpasuttu is caused by a virus. You know that when this sarpasuttu or herpes virus is going to be affected, normally around the neck region or around the chest region, it will take place. So the virus will attack one particular area and they start multiplying, during which you will see a burning sensation. You cannot turn your neck like this. So because it has been affected. And after some period of time, it will stop and it will enter into the opposite side. The virus will migrate or multiply, right, and affect the opposite another region, and it start multiplying. You will develop the burning sensation. At the time, you cannot turn like this. So, and some period of time, once again it stops, it will start increasing and spreading. You will turn, you cannot turn like this. So you will start turning your neck right, like the movement of a snake, isn't it? Similarly, on the chest, you will show a crawling movement, because you cannot touch that part to any object. To that extent, you will feel the severity of pains. So, because you crawl like a snake, it got its name as herpes or sarpasuttu. It is, the virus is also named as herpes virus. So, they will multiply when the temperature is increased. Corona, modified corona is going to increase with an increase in temperature slightly. That means, likewise, there are many microorganisms, they are saying, bacteria, viruses. And one thing I would like to tell you, every living entity, whether it is a plant or an animal or a human being or a bacteria or a virus, they have got certain optimal temperature. Only under defined temperature, they can show their activity. If the temperature is altered above or below, they become inactive. They become inactive. Suppose, assume that this herpes virus, if there is cold condition, right, like polar regions or region, this herpes virus doesn't multiply. It does not exist at all. Right. If the temperature is increased, this herpes virus start multiplying. Same is the case with any type of virus you take, whether it is bacteria or viruses. Even say mycobacterium tuberculosis, which causes the, what we can say, the tuberculosis, or leprosy causing microorganisms, or typhoid causing microorganisms, or this, what we can say, corona now, which we are. So they are all varying, right? At an optimal temperature, they multiply, right? If the temperature is increased too much, suppose the temperature of the atmosphere nowadays is increased to 50 degree or 60 degree, you may not see the existence of this coronavirus at all. Right. So, or else if the temperature is reduced to minus degree, assume 4 degree, 5 degree, 10 degree, you may not be able to see. So, likewise, every organism shows its activity at an optimal temperature. So, beyond that optimal, this optimal temperature varies from one individual to another individual, one species to another species, whether it's plant or animals or humans. Remember. So, that is how there will be an elevated risk of this if there is global warming and climate change. So I have taken plenty of such type of example. For example, 6% of ozone depletion take place in the atmosphere. There will be a loss of 7 million tons of fish per year. Look at this. If 6% of ozone is depleted, you will see a loss of 7 million tons of fish per year. Look at, fish is going to form a major food for most of the people inhabited in the coastal areas, as well as even in the inland areas. So where do they go? And how climate change could impact the world? So according to the report recorded at World Health Organization, so by 2030, more than 250,000 people may die because of various diseases or due to malnutrition, like malaria, heat stress, diarrhea, all these things. They have projected more than 250,000 people may die by the year 2030. And it may be a happy thing to note, like that one may feel, to check the population growth. So it is not that way. Every individual is having the right to live, lead a healthy life, isn't it? That is why we should keep always our environment healthy and clean. That is what I used to always stress. See how climate change, just by an increase of 4 degrees centigrade temperature rise, may affect by 2030 this much of havoc. So there may be 7 million people who may die because of the air pollution, because of air pollution. Hunger and famine may prevail, and because of shortage of food and other things. Many vector-borne diseases like malaria and dengue may be on the rise. And because many plants, because of increased temperature, they may start shedding the pollen grains early, they may cause allergy, pollen allergy, asthma and other things. So this is what has been projected by the World Health Organizations. So what are the solutions to all these problems? Scientists agree that you should not pollute the environment by burning the fossil fuels. We should not support the incidence or occurrence of global warming, right? So global warming has to be checked. If at all you want to check the global warming, what you should do? You should have more and more green vegetative cover, right? You should have, even if you have 40% or 50% of the vegetation, fantastic it will be. But we are having 23.68% of the forest cover. An ideal forest cover to any geographical area as per national forest policy is 33%. But in some areas, for example, if you look at the state of Karnataka, we are having about 20.2% of the forest cover. So it doesn't mean that in one area, if it is less and in another area it is more, the climate will be balanced. It is not like that. So globally, you must have as much of vegetation as possible, because trees are the one which are the best biofilters of pollutants, including the greenhouse gases and other things like carbon dioxide, isn't it? If the trees are cut, so you are uploading, right? As I told you, more than 2 billion tons of carbon dioxide is uploaded into the environment. And 1 hectare of closely wooded land, 1 hectare of closely wooded land is capable of giving you 600 kg of oxygen, 600 kg of oxygen in every 12 hours, and capable of absorbing 900 kg of carbon dioxide in every 12 hours. So in 1 hectare, if you grow the plants, right, that means closely wooded land, if at all is going to be established, in every 12 hours, it is capable of giving you 600 kg of oxygen and capable of absorbing 900 kg of carbon dioxide. But though we know about it, how we can protect ourselves, our environment and all these things, we do not take any steps or measures to have the greenery, to have the trees, to have the vegetation. We are using and abusing the land surfaces, and agricultural practices, modernization, industrialization, everything has affected, has got a strong impact on our lifestyle. So if anybody says, hey, global warming is taking place, if you want to say anybody, they say, no, I don't want to see, I don't want to hear, I don't want to talk about it. But be sure, though you do not speak, hear, and do any activity to regulate or to check this global warming, you are going to experience this global warming. So though you do not do anything and keep quiet also, ultimately you have to experience this global warming. So what can be done? So first and the foremost thing is that we must admit that climate change is everyone's problem. We should never allow this to happen drastically. See, we have got children, we have got our grandchildren, great grandchildren, like that. For the future generation, we have to keep this environment, we have to keep the resources of the environment in a healthy manner, and we should not allow, in the sense, simplest thing I can say, we should not allow this global warming to happen. So you should have the cleaner energy, cleaner transportation, which gave out lot of pollutants, and you should do even afforestation and reforestation programs should be taken on a massive scale. Wherever wasteland is available, make it into a productive land. Convert the wasteland into productive land. So I think more than forgotten the exact, more than 108 or so point something million hectares of wasteland is being available throughout the country. In Karnataka, about 6 million hectares of wasteland is being available. Make all these wasteland into a productive land by growing the crops, by growing the trees, by growing the vegetation. Right? It is according to your requirement. You can grow anything, any plant, even a fruit plant which serves you, it caters to your fruit requirement, food requirement, timber requirement. Grow them, maintain them, use them. Before harvesting, try to grow alternatively other plants, other young saplings. That's how you can definitely make your environment and this entire globe being greenery with, right, minimization of pollutants and judicious use of your, what we can say, the resources, right? So public transport system. So no need to use, if at all you have a fantastic greenery or vegetation in and around your area, no need to have a refrigerator, no need to have an air cooler, no need to have an air conditioner. So all these things, if you practice, you can solve the problems of global warming. And global warming and climate change has become a global concern. When they recorded in 1992 itself, the first Earth Summit was held, right, to check this, what we can say, the climate change, loss of biodiversity. And many nations, more than 130 states heads have delegates have been addressed this from more than 160 nations as to how to have a sustainable future, right? Which is the major agenda of, is the major theme of, or the objective of Agenda 21, right? So with these agreements, are we really practicing it? Are we sharing the technology? Are we involved in checking this emission of the greenhouse gases? Right? Even though there are many nations which have convened many such meetings, so it is, well, internationally they are all stressing upon that the green emission of these greenhouse gases should be checked, it should be minimized, right? It should be cut, everything. But the rate at which we are moving is like the snail. You know that how the snail moves, isn't it? So by the time it moves for a certain distance by 2050, or which are supposed to cut, if it is at this pace, if you are going to be there, so you cannot have even this much of check. You are going to release this more and more. Even in 2009, another that conference that was held at Copenhagen. Now, all these meetings and happenings are taking place, no doubt. The developed countries are insisting upon the developing countries to check these emission of the greenhouse gases. And they insist that these developing countries should be legally binding. They are ready to give the projects, economic cooperation, technology, everything. But they insist that the developing countries should be legally binding and verifiable. It should be verifiable and legally binding. Why do the developing countries will agree on this, what insistment of the developed countries? Because it is not only the developing countries who are causing this pollution, even the developed countries are causing more pollution than the developing countries. So because of this thing, so the developed countries, right, do not commit themselves for legally binding for any emission reduction, but they insist upon the developing countries to do like this. So there is no unanimity of opinion among the different states. So they start getting divided. To discuss, they get together to discuss, to check the emission of the greenhouse gases, global warming, climate change, they get together. But when the question of legally binding and verifiable things comes, so developing nations will slam the efforts of developed nations will slam the efforts of the developing nations. So if this is going to continue, what next? What would be the future? What should be the fate of future generation? So best is listen everything. Anyone, I have completed most of my life years. So I may be 40 or 30 or 50. Another 30 is average lifespan of an Indian is just 62 to 63 years, whereas that of an American is 81 to 82 years. So anyone, almost 30, 40 years I have completed. Half of my life journey has been completed. Why should I bother? Likewise, if you keep quiet without taking care of any measures, right? Once again, your next generation people or leaders also will go like this. Oh, we should do something to check the emission of the greenhouses before they are going to take a step to check this climate change and global warming. And by the time they suggest something, they may say, oh, we are saving the world. These are the measures to be taken. This is the decision that they have been taken. So they are going to take the decision. They have taken the decisions. And by the time already you are off much, right? Half of your body has been drowned. That means already most of the areas have been submerged. By the time you take a stringent action, you will be submerging, right? So if you want to have a healthy environment, ultimately all these aspects has to be stressed. Sustainable development. What is sustainable development? Judicious utilization of your resources, right? Judicious utilization of your resources, keeping your environment healthy, wealthy, and everything, allowing everyone to live and let live. And to achieve that one, the various parameters have to be obtained. So you should see that the waste generation should be checked. Conservation of biodiversity should be given prime importance. To punish the guilty, you should have the enforcement of strict environmental laws, legislation which are available, which should be enforced and implemented. So you should conserve water, minimize the pollution, use judicious non-renewable, what we can say, non-renewable resources very judiciously, right? You know it, we are all experiencing every day petrol, diesel is rising. Why? How much of petrol and diesel in my family everyone is wasting? Likewise, in an area they are wasting. Like in a city or a place they are wasting. Wasting in the sense not throwing outside. Unnecessarily burning and going for a small distance which is walkable. Even 1 kilometer of running through a vehicle, if you can save it, how much of petrol you can save it? Because it is not being produced through machines and other things. It is a natural fossil fuel available from the Middle East countries. And if all the oil wells go dried up, it has been estimated, projected by 2065, all the oil wells get dried up in Saudi Arabia. From where do you get the oil? From where do you get wells? We should not put the blame on anyone. We should blame ourselves first for our activities, right? If all of us judiciously use, including industrialists, I am telling you, including industrialists, right? Because they should not become too much of greedy, right? And in between, you know it, the black marketing mediators or middlemen who are all taking. Suppose today, one day, if the petrol bunk make a strike, people will store it, take it, and they are going to sell it even in black market. So likewise, all such type of things are happening because of lack of human ethics. So that is what I am trying to say, that try to at least inculcate these things in the younger generation. We should practice first and make the younger generation also to adopt and practice, so that you can leave this earth for the generations to come and lead a happy life. Otherwise, to get clean air, so you may have to go like this, right? To get even to breathe and survive clean air, we have to go like this. For every of our action, remember in nature, there will be a reaction. If you have a clean and clear environment, you will be very much clear and clean. And if you have a dirty environment or a polluted environment like this, the environment also will change you. So this may be having a longevity of the life, this may be having a shorter period or no period of life at all. Right? So for every of our action in nature, definitely there will be a reaction. So we should protect our nature. We should protect our mother nature, protect the resources of our nature and keep it for the future. So that is what is the real concept of the sustainable development. We know that we are the most evolved man on this earth. If you look at the evolutionary tree, so from the man is the descendant of monkey or ape-like organism or the living entity. So likewise through the process of evolution, so hundreds and millions of evolution. So this is the man which we are having now, right? If you continue to have global warming and climate change, so the way in which we are having the forums today, we may lose it and we may be like this. In the years to come, we may see a generation. It is a hypothetical thing that I am telling you, which can resist the global warming and climate change like that. It has been projected. So we know that life has been originated in water, right? So from the aquatic animals, land animals came, from the land animals, isn't it? Various like reptiles, birds, then mammals came, early mammals. So from this monkey like, then the ancestral man, then the modern man, right? Now this modern man, what he is doing? He is causing global warming and climate change through his activities, through his greediness. So it results in what? Increase in sea level rise. If the sea level rises, the land mass will submerge. So if the land mass submerges, this man has to. That means the place from where the life has been originated is also going to be submerging in the same habitat, in the same water body. It gets culminated. So we know that there is no place like home. Do you like to depart from it? Do you want to part it? So thank you very much for your patient listening. My concern is that through this lecture, I want to convey you the concept of this global warming and climate change and its impact on all the individuals without any exceptions. So what we should do and what we are doing. So how we can change our lifestyle, how we have to create awareness. At least for one individual, if you can create awareness and mold the individual to practice a healthy lifestyle. Likewise, if you are 30, so 30 another individuals, like from like 30, if it keep on multiplying, definitely we can, right, save this earth without getting submerged in the water. Otherwise, so I should write this thank you all above and this will be below. So thank you very much for your patient listening. And once again, I will thank Dr. Ranjan Swami, who is the best friend, who is giving me many opportunities like this to share my views regarding all these concepts. And also I sincerely thank you for your patient listening, especially in the afternoon when the temperature is increasing. To listen to a lecture of temperature increase and impact is also difficult, I know it. But still, I tried my level best to make you bit awakened through this. That's what I could able to do it. So thank you very much for all your patient listening. So if you have got any doubts, please ask. Am I audible, sirs, madams?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, namaste, sir. ನಮಸ್ತೆ, ನಾನು ರಾಜಶ್ರೀ. ಒಂದು ವಿಜ್ಞಾನದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ವಿಷಯವನ್ನ ಕೂಡ ಬಹಳ ಲವಲವಿಕೆಯಿಂದ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಬಹಳ ಸರಳವಾಗಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಆಕರ್ಷಕ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಫೋಟೋ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅವುಗಳ ಮೂಲಕ ಬಹಳ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ವಿವರಿಸಿದ್ರಿ ಸರ್. ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳನ್ನ. ನನ್ನದೊಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಸರ್, ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಸಜೆಷನ್, ಸಲಹೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಬ್ಬು ಬೆಳೆಯುವಂತಹ ರೈತರು ಅದನ್ನ 1 ವರ್ಷ ಅದನ್ನ ಬೆಳೆದ ಬಳಿಕ ಅದರ ಕೂಳೆಗಳನ್ನ ಅದನ್ನ ಕಡ್ದು ಕೂಳೆಗಳನ್ನ ಮತ್ತೆ ಬೆಳೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಪುನಃ ಉರಿಸಿ ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಉರಿಸ್ತಾರೆ ಅದರ ಬುಡವನ್ನು. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಫಲವತ್ತಾಗಿ ಬೆಳೆಯುವಂತಹ ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ. ಈವನ್ ಇನ್ ಡೆಲ್ಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅದು ಹೊಗೆ ಬರೋದಿಕ್ಕೆ ಕೂಡ ಅಂತಹ ಕಾರಣ, ಫಾರ್ಮರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಉರಿಸುವ ಕಾರಣ. ಅನೇಕ ಕಡೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹಳ್ಳಿಗಳಲ್ಲಿಯೂ ಕೂಡ ಇಂತಹ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಇದೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಏನು ಸರ್? ಅವ್ರು ಉರಿಸದೆ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮುಂದಿನ ಬೆಳೆ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅವ್ರು ಉರಿಸ್ಲೇಬೇಕದನ್ನ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಗವರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇಂದ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಪ್ರೋತ್ಸಾಹ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರೆ, ಸಬ್ಸಿಡಿಯ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಬೆಳೆಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಬೆಲೆಯನ್ನ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಟ್ಟಿನ ಪರಿಹಾರ ಸಿಗ್ಬೋದು ಒಂದು. ಸರ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಈಗ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದಂತಹ ಡಿಫಾರೆಸ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಇರಬಹುದು, ಇಂತಹ ಅರಣ್ಯಗಳನ್ನ ನಾಶ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಕ್ರಿಯೆಗೆ ಮುಖ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಆಡಳಿತ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಕಾರಣ ಅಂತ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಎತ್ತಿನ ಹೊಳೆಯಂತಹ ಯೋಜನೆಗಳನ್ನ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಅಂತಹ ಅರಣ್ಯವನ್ನ ಸಂರಕ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಬೆಳೆಸೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ನೀರಿಗೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿ ಇಡೀ ಒಂದು ಅಂತಹ ಹಸಿರನ್ನ ನಾಶ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಕ್ರಿಯೆ ಏನಿದೆ ಸರ್, ಅದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ನಾವು ಇರುವ ಒಂದು ಮಳೆಯನ್ನ ಮಳೆ ಕೊಯ್ಲು ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ ಸಂರಕ್ಷಿಸಿದ್ರೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಇರುವ ಬಾವಿಗಳನ್ನೇ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ತೋಡಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಮಳೆ ನೀರು ನಿಲ್ಲುವ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ, ಅಥವಾ ಬೋರ್ವೆಲ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಮರುಪೂರಣ ಮಾಡುವಂತಹ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಪ್ರಯೋಜನ ಆಗಬಹುದು ಅಂತ.
ಖಂಡಿತ ಮೇಡಮ್, ನಿಮ್ಮ 2 ಪಾಯಿಂಟಿಗೆ ಮೊದಲನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ನೀವು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ, ಈಗ ಕಬ್ಬಿನ ಗದ್ದೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಇದರಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ಬಂದ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಇದ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದ. ಈವನ್ ಆ ಕಬ್ಬು ಬೆಳೆಗಾರಗಳಿಗೆ, ಆ ರೈತರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ವಿಧಾನಗಳು ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಈಗ ಅವ್ರು ಕಬ್ಬನ್ನೇ ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕು ಅಂತಾನೆ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕಬ್ಬನ್ನೇ ಬೆಳೆಸ್ತಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಬೇರೆ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ಸ್, ರೊಟೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರ್ ವ್ಯವಸಾಯ ಪದ್ಧತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ, ಅದನ್ನಾರು ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೋದು. ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿಸೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅವ್ರು ಬೆಳೆನ ಸುಡ್ಲೇಬೇಕು, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ತರದ್ದು ಏನಿಲ್ಲ, ಕಳೆಗಳನ್ನ ಅಥವಾ ಕೂಳೆಗಳನ್ನ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಬರ್ಲಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಒಂದು. ಎರಡನೇದು, ನೀವು ಆ ತರದ್ದು ಬರ್ನ್ ಮಾಡ್ದಲೇನೆ ಅದೇ ಇದ್ರಿಂದಾನೆ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನಂತಂದ್ರೆ ವೀಡ್ಸ್ ಬೆಳಿಬಾರ್ದು, ಕಬ್ಬು ಮಾತ್ರ ಬೆಳಿಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಆ ವೀಡ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಅಥವಾ ಇದ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಇದಿದೆ, ಏನು ವಿಧಾನಗಳಿದೆ. ಈ ಬಯೋ ಫರ್ಟಿಲೈಸರ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಈಗ ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ವ್ಯವಸಾಯ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲೂ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನ ಮುಂದುವರೆದಂಗೆ, ಸಂಶೋಧನೆ ಮುಂದುವರೆದಂಗೆ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಮೆಥಡ್ಗಳನ್ನ, ವಿಧಾನಗಳನ್ನ ಕಂಡುಹಿಡಿದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಆದ್ರೆ ಅದು ರೈತನಿಗೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು, ರೈತನಿಗೆ ಮನದಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು. ಅವನಿಗೆ ಮನದಟ್ಟು ಮಾಡ್ದಲ್ಲೇ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಅವನು ಖಂಡಿತ ಒಪ್ಪೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸಡನ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವನನ್ನ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಅವನ ಲೈಫ್ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ಅನ್ನ ತುಂಬಾ ಕಷ್ಟ. ಅವನಿಗೆ ತಿಳಿ ಹೇಳಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಅವನು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಬಂದು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆ ತಂದು ಇದ್ ಮಾಡೋ ತನಕ, ಆ ರೊಟೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಕ್ರಾಪ್ಸ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತೆ ಇನ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್, ಅವಾಗ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಆರ್ಥಿಕವಾಗಿ ಅಥವಾ ಸಾಮಾಜಿಕವಾಗಿ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಬೇಕು ಅಂದಾಗ ಮಾಡೋಂಥದನ್ನ, ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನ ಸರ್ಕಾರದವರಾಗ್ಲಿ, ಆಡಳಿತದವರಾಗ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಜನಗಳೇ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಗ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಈ ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಏನೋ ಈ ತರ ಬಂದ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು, ಅದರಿಂದ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಅದ್ ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ರಿಲೀಸಸ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್. ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ, ಅದು ಒಂದು ಮಟ್ಟಿಗೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ಕಾಂಪನ್ಸೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅವನ ಅಗ್ರಿಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್, ಆ ಕಬ್ಬು ಬೆಳೆಯಂತ ಪ್ರದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಆ ದಿಬ್ಬದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ದಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚೆಚ್ಚು ಟ್ರೀ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ, ಅವನು ವೆಜಿಟೇಷನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವೆಜಿಟೇಟಿವ್ ಕವರ್ ಇರೋಂಥದ್ದು, ಫೋಲಿಯೇಜ್ ಅಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಎಲೆಗಳಿರೋಂತ ಬಿಡ ಅಂತದ್ದು, ಆ ತರ ಮರಗಳನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಅಟ್ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ಅವ್ನು 1 ಎಕರೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಸುತ್ತ ಬೌಂಡ್ರಿಗೆ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಗ್ಲೋಬಲ್ ವಾರ್ಮಿಂಗಿಗೆ ಅವಕಾಶ ಸಿಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಆ ತರ ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ವಿಧಾನಗಳನ್ನ ಅವನು ಅಡಾಪ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋ. ಅದು ಮೊದಲನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇದು. ಎರಡನೇ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್, ನೀವು ಎತ್ತಿನ ಹೊಳೆ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ. ನಾನು ಈ ನೋಡ್ರಿ, ನೀವು ಯಾವ್ದೇ ಎತ್ತಿನ ಹೊಳೆದ್ ಒಂದು ನೀರಿಂದ ಒಂದೇ ಅಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಈವನ್ ಪವರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರು ಯಾವಲ್ವೇ ಕಾಡಿನ ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲೇ ಹೋಗಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ನೀವು? ಈಗ ಕೈಗಾ ಪವರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಎಸ್ಟಾಬ್ಲಿಷ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನಾರ್ತ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಪವರ್ ಬೇಕು, ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾರ್ತ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಆಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡದಂತ ಕಾಡಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಂತ ಮಿಲಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಮಿಲಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಇಯರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಎವಲ್ಯೂಷನ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟು ಸಹಸ್ರ ವರ್ಷಗಳು ತಾಂಡಿದ್ದಂತ ಗಿಡ ಮರಗಳು, ಬಳ್ಳಿಗಳು, ಜೀವಿಗಳು ನಾಶ ಹೊಂದಿದ್ದಾವೆ. ಈಗ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, ಸರ್ಪಗಂಧ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಇದೆ, ಗಿಡ, ಸರ್ಪಗಂಧ ಅಂತ. ಅದನ್ನ ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾರು ಮನುಷ್ಯರಿಗೆ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ ನ ಕ್ಯೂರ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಅಂತ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ಅನ್ನ ಆ ಸರ್ಪಗಂಧದ ಬೇರೆ ಇರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅದರಿಂದ ತೆಗೆದು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಅದೇ ಸರ್ಪಗಂಧದಿಂದ ಈ ಹಾವುಗಳು ಕಚ್ಚಿದಾಗ, ಸ್ನೇಕ್ ಕಚ್ಚಿದಾಗ ಅದನ್ನ ಕ್ಯೂರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೂ ಆ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನ್ ಅನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಇದನ್ನ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ 1975ರಿಂದ 85ರ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಶಿವಮೊಗ್ಗ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆ ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಒಂದು ಉದಾಹರಣೆ ಕೊಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಶಿವಮೊಗ್ಗ ಇದೆ ಪ್ಲೆಂಟಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಹುಲ್ಲು ತರ ಬೆಳೀತಾ ಇತ್ತು ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲೂ, ರೈಟ್, ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಏರಿಯಾಗಳಲ್ಲಿ. ಇವತ್ತು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಗಿಡ ಸಹ ಸಿಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಆ ಜಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆನೂ ಸಿಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದನ್ನ ಇವತ್ತು ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ IUCN ಬಾಡಿ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ, ಇಂಟರ್ನ್ಯಾಷನಲ್ ಯೂನಿಯನ್ ಫಾರ್ ಕನ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ನೇಚರ್, ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂಡೇಂಜರ್ ರೆಡ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಬುಕ್ ಅದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಂಡೇಂಜರ್ಡ್ ಸ್ಪೀಶೀಸ್ ಅಂತ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಗಿಡನೂ ಸಹ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ ಬಹಳ ರೇರ್ ಆಗಿ ಅದು ವಿನಾಶದ ಅಂಚಿನಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ತರದ ಗಿಡಗಳನ್ನ ನೀವು ಎಲಿಮಿನೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಡಿಸೀಸ್ ಬಂದ್ರೆ ಅದರಿಂದ ನೀವು ಕ್ಯೂರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂತೀರಾ. ಈಗ ನೀವು ಕೊರೋನಾಕ್ಕೆ ಅದು ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಂಡಿಡಿಯಕ್ಕೆ ಇದ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವ ತರದ ಡಿಸೀಸ್ ಕಾಸಿಂಗ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ಟೀರಿಯಾ ಆಗ್ಲಿ ವೈರಸ್ ಯಾವುದೇ ಬಂದ್ರು ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಸಸ್ಯ ಸಂಪತ್ತಿನಿಂದನೇ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂತ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಪವರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ವಿನಾಶ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ಉದಾಹರಣೆ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದು, ಇದು ಕೈಗಾ ಪವರ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಂತ ಮೆಡಿಸಿನಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ಸ್. ಅದು ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಆಗೋದಕ್ಕೂ ಮುಂಚೆನೂ ನಾನು ನೋಡಿದ್ದೆ, ಈಗ ಡೆವಲಪ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೂ ನೋಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಎಷ್ಟು ಗಿಡಗಳು ಮರಗಳು ಈವನ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡಿಗೆ ನಾವು ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಆಗ್ದಲೇ ಇರೋಂತಷ್ಟು ನಾವು ಜೀವರಾಶಿನ ಕಳ್ಕೊಂಡು. ಇದು ಒಂದು. ಈ ನಿದರ್ಶನ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವೇನಾದ್ರೂ ಪಾಠ ಕಲ್ತಿದೀವ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಖಂಡಿತ ಕಲ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇದು ಕೇವಲ ಒಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಗುಂಪು, ಏನೋ ಈ ತರ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಾಡನ್ನು ಉಳಿಸಿ, ಜೀವರಾಶಿ ಉಳಿಸಿ, ಜೀವ ಸಂಕುಲ ಉಳಿಸಿ ಎಂದು ನಮ್ದು ಕೇವಲ ಸಣ್ಣ ಗುಂಪು, ಅಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಸಣ್ಣ ಪುಟ್ಟ ಹೋರಾಟಗಳು ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ, ಇದಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಹೊರತು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮಟ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳೂ ಮನುಷ್ಯರೇ, ಆಡಳಿತಗಾರರು ಮನುಷ್ಯರೇ, ಅವ್ರೂ ಅನ್ನ ತಿಂತಾರೆ, ನಾವು ಅನ್ನ ತಿಂತೀವಿ. ಅನ್ನ ತಿನ್ನೋರ ಅದನ್ನ ರಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ? ಯಾರೇ ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ಯಾವ ಮನುಷ್ಯನೇ ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ಯಾವ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರದಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದೇ ಆಗ್ಲಿ, ನಮಗೆ ಇದರಿಂದ ಲಾಭ ಇದೆಯಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ? ಕೇವಲ ತಾತ್ಕಾಲಿಕ ಕ್ಷಣಿಕವಾದಂತ ಲಾಭಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ನೀವು ಗಿಡ ಮರಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲಾ ಕಡಿದ್ರಿ. ಎತ್ತಿನ ಹೊಳೆನಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ ಆ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೀತಾ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಂತ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಮರದನ್ನ ಯಾರ ಕೈಲಿ ಅಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀರಾ? ನಿಮಗೆ ಯಾರು ಫೇವರಬಲ್ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾನೋ ಅಂತರ್ ಕೈಲಿ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ಅಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀರ. ನಿಜವಾದ ಜ್ಞಾನಿಗಳ ಹತ್ರ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಅಸೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತಾರ? ನಮ್ಮ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯಾ? ನೀವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿ. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ ನಾವು, ರೈಟ್? ನಮಗೆ ಏನ್ ಫೇವರಬಲ್ ಬೇಕೋ ಅದರಿಂದ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇಂಪ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಏನಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ಟ್ರೀ 10.5 ಲಕ್ಷದಷ್ಟು ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಟೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ಪರಿಸರದಲ್ಲಿರುವ ಈ ವಾಯು ಮಾಲಿನ್ಯದಿಂದ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಟೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅಬ್ಸಾರ್ವ್ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಒಂದು ಟ್ರೀ 50 ವರ್ಷ ಇರೋ ಮರ ಅದನ್ನ ಹೀರ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕ್ಲೀನ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಜನ್ ಕೊಡುವಂತ ಶಕ್ತಿ ಇದೆ. ಅಂತ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮರಗಳನ್ನ ನೀವು ಕಡ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಪೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಲೋಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ನೀವು ಹಾಕಿದೀರಾ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಲಕ್ಷ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ದುಡ್ಡು ಉಳಿಸಿದ್ದೀರಾ, ಎಷ್ಟು ಖರ್ಚು ಮಾಡಿದೀರಾ. ನೀವು ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲಾಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕಿದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಲಕ್ಷ ಉಳಿಸ್ದಂಗೆ. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನೀರ್ ಬೇಕು, ಯಾವ್ದ್ರ ಬರ್ಲಿ, ಎಲ್ಲಾ ಕಡೆನೂ ಎತ್ತಿನ ಹೊಳೆಯಿಂದ ಯಾವ್ಯಾವ ಜಾಗ ನೀರು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೋ ಅದೆಲ್ಲಾ ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿರೋ ವೇಸ್ಟ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಇದನ್ನ ನೀವು ಗ್ರೀನರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲೇನೆ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ವಾಟರ್ ಬರ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಅಲ್ಲೇನೆ ಮಳೆ ಬರ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಅಲ್ಲೇನೆ ಭೂಮಿ ನೀರು ಕಳ್ತಿತ್ತು, ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಜನಗಳು ಸಂಪದ್ಭರಿತರಾಗಿರ್ತಿದ್ರು. ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ದಲೆ ನಾವು ಕೋಟಿಗಟ್ಲೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ತಂದು ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ತಂದು ಅದು ಕೊಡೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಅರ್ಥ ಇದೆಯೋ ನನಗ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನನಗಂತೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವೇನೋ ಒಂದು ಜಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ, ನಮ್ಗೇನೋ ಒಂಚೂರು ನೀರ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ, ಇರೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆಂಗೋ ಇದ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಆದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ದಾಗೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಳಕಳಿ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕನ್ಸನ್ನು, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಜೆಷನ್ನು, ಸಲಹೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಸಲಹೆ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕಿಂತ ನಾನ್ ಹೇಳೋದು ಅದೊಂಥರ ನುಡಿ ಮುತ್ತುಗಳನ್ನಾಗಿ ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅದನ್ನ ಯಾತಕ್ಕೆ ಜನ ರಿಯಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ? ಅದು ಬಹಳ ನೋವು ಕೊಡೋ ಅಂತ ಸಂಗತಿ, ನನ್ನ ವೈಯಕ್ತಿಕ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಈ ತರದ ಅವೇರ್ನೆಸ್, ಈ ತರದ ಫೀಲಿಂಗ್ಸ್ಗಳು, ಈ ತರದ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗು ಎಲ್ಲರಲ್ಲೂ ಬಂದಾಗ